You ever see me?
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Amy, you want to take the roll call?
Mayor Bogenreith?
Here.
Ms. Hoffman?
Here.
Ms. Burhoop? Here. Ms. Strain? Here. Mr. Tucker?
Here.
Okay, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we'll look for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Commissioner, Department Head, and Community Board reports.
Just, I would mention a couple things. One is, this particular meeting is not being live streamed because of a scheduling conflict, but Kevin is recording it and it'll be posted tonight on the webpage. And this is the last of our 4 o'clock meetings, the special meetings that we've been having to try to catch up. And so at our next meeting, June 2nd, that will be the first installment of our regular meeting schedules, which are the first and third Mondays at 6 o'clock. So.
Okay.
I have one item. I would like to read a thank you note from the VIP cheer girls who went to the World Champion or competition. Thank you for your sponsorship. You allowed us the opportunity to compete internationally at the All-Star Worlds in Orlando, Florida. Triple Threat VIP's Junior Level 3 team successfully made a personal gym record, scoring top 22 in the world and hitting 0 at the All-Stars. Our trip was a great opportunity to bond as a team and meet athletes from around the world. Thank you for your considered support. Bella Hoffman, and I'll pass that around.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Must be a granddaughter.
Great-granddaughter.
Great-granddaughter.
Oh, look how cute they are. Nice.
All right. We'll move on to community input. Just a reminder, if you have something during the agenda, feel free to wait until that item is brought up during the agenda. But if it's not on the agenda, it's open mic night. Seeing Nancy, go ahead.
Okay, so Nancy Albright, 221 West Shore Drive. I have 2 questions. The first one is for you, the commission. We have been working in McCook Lake for 1 to 2 years with Stockwell or longer. I'm not sure. At what point do we get a second opinion on what is happening in McCook Lake from another source? On mitigation plans, finances. So I'm asking that question as a community member.
Could you repeat it? Could you repeat the question?
At what point do we get a second opinion regarding the work that Stockwell is doing? Do we go out and source this out and ask someone else how our money is being spent in North Sioux City?
For just the mitigation?
Everything.
Okay.
Okay. My second question is anyone familiar with the city of Schindler who flooded in, I can't remember what year, but in 2018 they were awarded, the citizens, the community was awarded 5 homeowners that lost everything, $1 million. And it was because of the flooding to the Big Sioux. How does that affect us? Is that something we can go and pursue? I did reach out to the attorney that took care of that case this afternoon, and he is deceased, and the law firm has conflict of interest. So they were successful in their lawsuit. It wasn't to the city of North Sioux City, but it was to the Sioux Falls. So has anybody pursued that or looked into that?
Not that I'm aware of, but
And should we?
So Schindler is the name of the town?
Yes.
And is that in South Dakota?
Yeah, just on the east side, southeast corner, small.
All I can say is we can look into it.
yeah, we can definitely look into it.
I sure would like $1 million. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Any other community input? All right, I'll assume the rest of you might have comments as we go along. But first on the agenda, McCook Lake mitigation and the hazard mitigation grant application, which would go to FEMA.
Yeah, the FEMA grant, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is a program that's available throughout the state. It's funded by FEMA based on different disasters. So every federally declared disaster, money comes to the state for hazard mitigation grant opportunities, and it's for communities and nonprofits to be able to apply for this money to do mitigation projects to mitigate against future disasters. This application is due on May 30th for the first round. I think South Dakota has about $5 million available for the whole state. And so we've been, over the past 6 weeks, we've been going through various concepts, ideas that would maybe help mitigate against the floods of June of 2024. And as we go through that, the next step is that if we can come up with a concept that works, we want to try to bring it to design and then ultimately to construction at some point. So this grant application that, if you would scroll down a little bit, Amy, I've included some excerpts from the grant application for your review here. And if you go back up to the letter, so basically what we are applying for within this grant application is for funding assistance in the design of a concept that has yet to be picked, a concept that Stockwell and the administration here has provided you some ideas on. And if we can come up with a concept that works, this grant application is asking for funding to help design one of those options. The program is set up so that 75% of the grant application comes from the federal government, from FEMA, 15% comes from the state, and 10% will come from North Sioux City. I've included in this application and has been presented to you a proposal from Stockwell Engineers to provide the design and environmental reviews necessary to take the next step. If you want to scroll down some now. This kind of goes through the scope of work. The geographic area of this project is strictly McCook Lake area, as it's designed to protect against the flood that happened in 2024. A lot of this is just on the form to protect against flooding, infrastructure failure, and severe storms. Go down to the budget page. So here's the kind of the schedule, and it's basically taken from Stockwell's proposal to you. But that first one I wanted to draw your attention to, the concept, develop, and modeling phase 1 through 5. That's what we're currently working on, and that's what you've been providing comment on through the course of the last 6 weeks. So this application contemplates that the city has paid for the concept, development, and modeling, and that FEMA and the Hazard Mitigation Grant would pick up where that leaves off. And provide funding for design of a concept. You haven't picked it yet, but a concept to be determined. So if you want to keep scrolling. Phase 6 is the schematic design that comes right after You guys pick a concept and we start starting the design process. Keep scrolling. Phase 7 is the environmental assessment. That'll be something that's done early on in the process to identify any impacts according to the National Environmental Policy Act, the NEPA. And then once that gets done, we can start doing the survey work, which is, you know, the surveying elevations and that kind of thing. Keep going. Then we get into the phase 9, the design development, which will get the plans through 60% and 95% completion. And then the last phase, the construction documents for it to be bid out for final construction. You know, I've got, scroll down a little bit more. I've got this whole process taking about 36 months to get through the design phase. That includes a little bit of time up front to wait for the grant application to be evaluated. Like I said, the average time for these grant applications to be reviewed is 444 days. So it will at least get us in the queue for consideration. The total cost, if you want to, is the 1.7 million is what Stockwell has outlined in their work order. Management cost is of 86,800. That is 5% of the total that we're eligible to apply for, and that would cover the cost of administrating the grant, which would probably be done by CCOG, and then also our management time to help manage the process and see it through to the end. So the total is 1.822 million. $1,822,811.55 is the amount of this total package, of which, if you'll scroll down a little bit further, I think it shows the federal share. The federal share would be 1.3 million, and between the state and North Sioux City, we would pay 434,000 for the design. Now, keep in mind that this is, a lot of this can change as the time develops. You know, if you look at the time between today and 444 days, we will continue to work on these concepts, modifying them as you guys provide comment and as the public provides comment. We will also be working with the Corps of Engineers to restudy the Big Sioux River flooding and the Exit 4 1976 solution or agreement. So there'll be two paths being developed over these next 36 months. And, you know, just say in 12 months when they start reviewing this application, maybe the Corps of Engineers is further along and we can make decisions as we go, but we'll have two parallel paths to make decisions off of. Our path, which is local, and the Corps of Engineers path, which is more of a regional approach. And then we'll have to make decisions from there. But what I'm asking for you tonight is just authorization to submit this application on behalf of North Sioux City, get it in the queue so it can at least be reviewed and weighed against other projects. Any questions?
I do have a question. What if ultimately we decide to do nothing? Where does it put this? You know, it could be
That's
that.
a good question. Like I said, there's 400, on average, it takes 444 days to review this. So just say it was reviewed in 444 days, it was approved, it would then come back to you guys would still have to make the decision to accept it and move forward with the design. So you're not committing to anything, you're just asking for a slot in the queue to get funding. If you choose not to move forward with it, then you don't sign the grant agreement and the grant goes back.
And can we ask that what I call option 3 could become option 1, which is not to put the water back into McCook?
Yes, absolutely. This scope contemplates that you've already made that decision. So the decision on what option to pick will still come under the current work order we're currently under. So yes, you can make choices between 1, 2, and 3, or 4 or 5, whatever comes up. What this is saying is, once you make that choice, there's money to design it and build it.
And we may learn things from the county's process with the Army Corps as that 444 days is
Yeah.
ticking.
Like
We
that,
may learn new things.
that's a really good point. That's why I'm really encouraged with this process, because we're moving this local option forward, but also we'll have another option to consider as the Corps of Engineers gets involved and can start studying it. And that's all subject to congressional funding, of course, but if that does materialize, we will have 2 courses to choose from.
At what point in the timeline would we have some public hearings on the options in front of us?
You know, based on the trajectory that we're currently on, I would say probably July, August would be a good time frame to have that. We will have fully vetted all the options available, and then we can have a public hearing either during a regular meeting or a special meeting if you wanted to just focus completely on that. But we can have a couple public meetings. Like I said, the one good thing about the 444-day waiting period, it does give you some time to sort through the different options and the comments and that kind of stuff. And like I said, in the meantime, the other process will be going, and maybe at some point, the 2 processes become one, or one kind of fades off at the direction of the other one. So this is just in my opinion, it's a very good dynamic for the city to be able to develop a project that works in a timeline that's reasonable.
The data we're using, respect on the hydrology, is that something the Army Corps may use as well, or will they have their own source of data?
They'll use that same information.
Okay.
Theirs
will be a bigger geography.
Yeah, it's really, they'll use the same data from a flow rate standpoint, but they have different requirements that they will follow for the levee. For a levee, for example, they've got other requirements than they would for FEMA from a flood standpoint. From our perspective for you, I mean, we're looking at this from just what works drainage-wise, and as far as what actually what plan you'll move forward with is still to be determined. And this is a placeholder for that grant application, is a placeholder, because if you end up going with one of the lower cost options, it wouldn't cost that much either. So that's something to understand.
The modeling that we've been basing our discussions on, I'm sure the Corps will want to verify that, but it'll give us a great jumping off point to have discussions with them sooner rather than later, in my opinion.
Yep. And go ahead.
John, you don't have to answer this tonight, but as we go, let's assume we get awarded the money and we want to start the actual design for city share, what, I don't know, 1.7?
1.7 million.
Okay, so let's say the city shares 1.7. Is that something we could go out to bid for if needed? And then they'd have to work with you to get data, I'm assuming, but is that a possibility?
So yeah, it certainly is. It's up to, that'd be your call if you wanted to go away from us doing that work. You could do an RFP if you wanted to do that and have someone else. Respec is our partner, and they're our team member right now to do the modeling. And so and they've done all the modeling up to this point on the Big Sioux and the Missouri. And so, you know, our team will be pretty strong going after that, because we'd certainly want to go after it still, because we've got a lot of background information. And so we'd certainly be interested in that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a cost for just doing the application? Like, do they charge us?
No, CCOG does the application for our membership dues.
Okay.
Hi, Mike Daly, Union County Commission. Been working with Jeff on this mitigation plan plus a larger plan. There was a letter drafted to the Corps of Engineers that was due in March, and I took it to Washington and gave it to both Senators Rounds and Thune and Representative Johnson, and been in contact back and forth with one of Rounds' staff people. Senator Rounds is on the Appropriation Committee in the Senate, and he's also on a subcommittee that is Energy and Water. And there were dollars available there that the last contact I had an email this morning from the staff person, Lucas, and Senator Rounds has requested $500,000 to the Corps of Engineers to study the lower Big Sioux River. And if that all goes through, which it looks positive, they would be doing that study in '26. Originally, the Corps said they would request it in '26 for dollars in '27, but it looks like that'll get moved up a year. So there will be a Corps of Engineer study, hopefully at that point, that will also come up with a plan to do something with the river. As far as the South Dakota Emergency Management FEMA dollars, the county looked into the gauges on all the bridges. They're all brand new already and operating. There are cameras on the monitor at Akron. We are looking into getting cameras on the bridge at Richland and the bridge east of Jefferson. And that's what we're applying for in that state mitigation dollars. That's pretty much all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for speeding it up a year. Other questions on applying for the grant? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve submitting the grant application.
I'll motion to submit the grant application.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, number 2 is North Shore reconstruction and a temporary drainage proposal.
Yeah, we've been discussing this, and the commission had asked for a temporary option. And could you share that temporary option with them to manage the stormwater on that road until it can get permanently fixed next year? On the screen there is a temporary solution that Stockwell came up with, and we've kind of modified it a little bit since then. If you look at what's on your screen, this would drain the 2 low points. This is where the water collects in front of, I guess that one on the bottom is Dan Pico, and the one on top is Dennis Johnson. But it would collect the water in those 2 locations and then pipe it to the river, or pipe it to the lake so that it doesn't collect on the road. It would involve 2 temporary inlets at each location, cutting the road and putting in a pipe to connect those, and then it would drain. We would get rid of the pipe that parallels the road there, and instead put in another discharge pipe at the location on the left down to the lake. And I've talked to both homeowners about a temporary easement to allow us to put that pipe there, and they're considering it. And so if I could get those 2 easements, I do have a price of $35,000 to put those 2 locations in, if the commission would be willing to accept it.
And the reason that there's a drainage area, or there's a pooling of stormwater, was partially due to lack of some easements when the temporary road was put in?
Well, it was originally, when we put the temporary road in, we were planning on reconstructing this year. So if we would have reconstructed it this year, you would have had curb and gutter in there, and all that would have been taken care of. And we didn't have, when we built the temporary road, we didn't have the necessary easements to get the water to the lake. So now, like I said, I still have to get those easements, but I've talked to both of those landowners, and they're interested in at least considering it. So I think there's a possibility. So I guess, in the interest of time and efficiency, if you would give me approval to put it in for $35,000, if I can get the easements, we could get this done in 2 weeks.
I would make that motion on a not to exceed amount
Fair enough?
of 35,000.
35,680 is the actual.
How many?
35,680.
Okay, 3516.
All right.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
You know, last comment, I know the road is a little bit rough in some of those areas. We had that water main break, and then also 71, I think, had a temporary, or had a sewer service put to it. It's a new house going in there. And we're just going to have to get some more material put in there here in the short term until it settles. And then when we do the school lot in July or August, we'll have the permanent patches put on there.
So what does this have to, like, how does this change the patching that we're gonna have to do on that road? Because that road's pretty ugly in places.
It'll add so those two pink or yellow areas you see on those will have to be included in the asphalt patches. In addition to the one that we're doing for 71, the service line at 71, and then the miscellaneous ones that get screwed up by this Game Fish and Parks project that's going on, and then the school project. So by that time, we should have had the parking lot bid, and we will have a unit price to make those repairs at that time too.
We've included these two repairs as part of the parking lot bid package, so when you see that we're going to open bids on that project on the 21st. You approved that at the last meeting. So these two areas are included in there, as well as any other patching that we already identified. The additional damage that might happen because of the McCook Lake rehab would just be, we'd have to add that to that project if there's more breakup.
Yeah.
They pretty much have it on a unit price.
Yeah, it'll be a unit.
Okay.
So I got
All right. Next is Penrose reconstruction and the bid award for that.
You want me to go ahead?
Sure.
So we received 5 bids for the project on Penrose. As you know, we split up Penrose from North Shore because of the easements or the lack of easements on North Shore. And we were able to receive 5 bids on that. You see the tabulation there. Steve Harris Construction was the low bidder at $719,703.66. We did talk to them tonight, and they plan on getting started about the second week in June and anticipate finishing the project as scheduled in our bid package. So we would recommend awarding the project to Steve Harris Construction, and we'd recommend you sign the notice of award as well.
Sorry, start the second week of June and finish when?
The finish, it'll be opened up before school starts, so the street project would be, I think we've got a August, correct me if I'm wrong, you remember the date, 20th? Or September 1, final completion?
I think final completion is September 7th, and there's an interim completion date in August, it's first week in August, essentially, to get the road opened up before school starts.
And do we have some in all our contracts, are there some penalties
Yes,
built in?
Yes, and it's based on the size of the project. So in this case, every project, if it's a $1 million project, it's a certain dollar amount, and those are built into our, your specifications. And so all the contractors are aware of what they are. So as you get to a different level, the level just increases based on the size of the project. I don't remember what this one would be, but we would have damages if they weren't done on time. We'd be assessing them, and then you'd have to decide if you want to assess them or not, so.
Okay.
So one of the things too, that we'll do, and I think Chris has brought this up before, is we'll have a pre-construction conference with the contractor. They're going to provide us a schedule, their schedule of completion of this project, how it unfolds. We'll post that on our website along with updates as to the progress that it's going. In other words, like, for example, if we're going to be, if they're going to be doing water main next week, we'll put that on the website so that people know that there might be some disruptions in water service while they put this water main in. That's just an example, so that people can go to the website to get regular updates on the progress of that.
What do you do about people who don't have availability to the website, who might live on that area?
Our on-site inspector will be knocking on doors and will be communicating the best we can out there. And so if you do know of somebody like that, please let us know, and we'll make sure we make special, we'll make arrangements to make sure they get good notifications, whether it's hand delivery or mail or whatever.
Is that typical to get 5 bids on these projects?
It's a good time to be bidding work. Our estimate was $930,000, as you see there, and that's based on what, project costs we received last year, so that's a good comparison to last year. I think we're getting good prices. We've got 5 bidders. Obviously, there's a couple from Sioux Falls, so that was, or one from Sioux Falls. That means that things are definitely getting slow, and you're seeing some very good numbers. And I do believe that on this project we turned in with FEMA was the $914,000 was one of the estimates that we had done later, and so that's what you actually received was $914,000 for this Penrose portion.
So that reduces the local match?
Yeah, you will have, the estimate was $915,000 around there, and I can't remember exactly. But this is obviously $200,000 less, so that your match and the overall cost of the project, you received the $914, I believe, already. So you get all of it, so you won't have any match on this.
But Chris, this is a good number of contractors for North Sioux City for sure. Yeah. There's most of the utility contractors are represented in this, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Working.
It seems like they're willing to work in North Sioux now, so it's good.
All right.
I'd make a motion that we move to accept the Penrose Drive reconstruction bid of $719,703.66 for Steve Harris Construction.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Guess the meeting's over, the computer's restarting.
Oh. Need a video card, new video card on there. Is that actually, that's everything, right?
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
All right, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, it's a good sign we don't need weekly meetings anymore.
Yeah. Those were good while they lasted, but I'm glad they're over.